there. Welcome to an episode of From Half Court. I am Sean Murphy. Today, we have a great episode for you. I was joined by the host of Locked On Pistons, Khahil, and we talk all things Detroit Pistons. A lot of things that we saw from opening night, as well as the preseason storylines going into the season, expectations for players on the roster, and just where we think about what we think about where the Pistons are at right now. So a lot of conversation into that. This was recorded earlier in the day, yesterday, before the Houston Rockets game. So there is not any conversation about the Pistons win in Houston last night, which is why I'm here right now to quick break that down and recap what was a really solid win, all things considered, for the Pistons coming into a game in Houston where, quite frankly, they had a really poor showing in that opening night in Chicago, which kind of sets the stage for some of the conversation that you see later in this podcast. But the game in Houston was a pretty different story. Was it pretty? Absolutely not. Is that one that you're going to be putting on the highlight tapes and saying this is the best of what Detroit basketball can be? Not at all. But what you can point that win to, and what you can look at within that win, is that was as much of a Detroit basketball feeling win as we've seen in a while. It wasn't pretty by any means, and if anything, when a game's not pretty, when the waters get muddied, that's kind of when the Pistons thrive. That's kind of right where they want to be. And like looking at like the performance overall, like the Pistons, like realistically speaking, have yet to get a good Cade Cunningham game out of the first two games. Like last night, he had 21 points, 7 to 16 from the field. Like if you're looking at some of the stats, like it was a decent game, but then you go right to the turnovers and realize Cade had 8 of them. The size and the length of this Rockets lineup was a very legitimate threat. It was something that made it very difficult for the likes of Cade and for others to succeed and to even just do basic things like setting up the offense, passing the ball where they want to, like getting the ball to open shooters, guys like Tari Eason, guys like Amen Thompson, just bringing their length. Like when Amen Thompson is the shortest player on the court for the Rockets for like the majority of the game, that's when you know they got a pretty big team. 4 of their 5 starters are 6'11" and up. Just to set the stage. So definitely some unprecedented things that we haven't really seen before. And I'm going to chalk some of this up to being the beginning of the season and going up against one of the most unorthodox lineups that we've seen in the history of basketball. But there were some things that definitely stood out as like flaws and things that like you definitely have to address that we'll get to in a second. But you can't help but acknowledge the incredible performances of the likes of a Paul Reed, of a Duncan Robinson, of a Ron Holland, of an Asar Thompson. Like this was, you know, like I can't group Asar Thompson in there because he is not an ancillary piece. He's not a role player. He's one of the premier core pillars of the Pistons. But those role players were truly the stars of the show in Houston. Specifically, Paul Reed having to come in after Jalen Duren was ejected in the first half, after Isaiah Stewart was fouled out in the fourth quarter. He had to play the majority of the second half and pretty much the entirety of crunch time for this Pistons team. And he played impeccable basketball in that time, especially when you consider that this is the third center on the depth chart. This is a guy that is not guaranteed to play minutes every night. And for him to come in and play as well as he did in those moments, in that circumstance, it was immaculate basketball. It was a true, like shining pillar and example of the culture that's been implemented by JB Bickerstaff, which, by the way, career win number 300 for JB Bickerstaff. So definitely something to note there, and definitely something that was really impressive in that element as well. Now, talking about the things that were not as pretty and the things that do come up. One of the conversations that we have in this podcast is kind of about the continual foul trouble of the Pistons as a whole, but in particular of one Jalen Duren. Because with a lot of the other guys, we talk about how some of it's just, we could just call it being like one game, just one of 82, beginning of the season. It's rust. You can attest a lot of those things, those distinct factors. Jalen Duren, on the other hand, is a little bit different because, well, it's important to acknowledge he's not even 22 yet. He's still extremely young. has a long, like railway to go, like has like a long career ahead of him. But if he wants to stay on the court, he has to knock off the foul trouble. He has to increase the discipline while maintaining the physicality. He walked off the court and he did that, he did that Detroit thing where you put the jersey up like this. And I know fans love that and it's cool and all, and it's great, but at the same time, the bad boys, like that Detroit like mentality that they're referencing, they don't get kicked out in the second quarter or only play for half of the game because they're getting dumb tic-tac fouls that are keeping them off the court. They weren't elbowing guys right in the temple, intentional or not, to get them into the locker room in the middle of the second quarter. Through the first two games, Duren's only played 36 minutes. And when he's been on the court, he's been solid, especially, like when you talk about the, like the offensive side of the ball, he's like, they very clearly look to come out and establish a lob from Cade to Duren at the beginning of each game. Like that is clearly one of the first actions they are looking to run. That pick and roll duo between Cade and Duren is something that they really want to maximize. The problem is when that's one of your core pillars of your offense and one of those players can't stay on the court. It's not an equation that necessarily adds up to success very often. And so if Jalen Duren does want to go to restricted free agency next summer and go to the negotiation table and say, I want north of $30 million, you have to be able to play 30 minutes a night first. I think that's a pretty clear bar that you kind of have to meet. If you want to make $30 million, you got to be able to play 30 minutes. If he's able to do that, we don't question his ability as a basketball player. We don't question his talent. There's definitely some defensive IQ stuff he has to work on. It's very clear that going up against Nikola Vucevic is still very much something that can be an issue for him. But the overall prowess and the talent and the athleticism, there's a reason why they need him on the court. It's because he has physical gifts that just few bigs in this league have. So, but with that, let's move on to our conversation with Khahil, where we talk all things Detroit Pistons. Enjoy this episode from Half Court. What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today. I am Sean Murphy, joined by a special guest, a guy that needs no introduction in the Pistons world, the host of Locked On Pistons, Khahil. What's going on, man? It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here and being here in that fly setup you have, man. Seriously, it's legit.
Yeah, all thanks to my wife. She spent I went to hoop and this was not like this. I came back like 3 hours later from a pickup session. I walk in here tired as ever, sit down, turn the light on, and realize it all. I'm like, what happened? How did you do all this? But yeah, all credit to my wife. I'm happy to be here. Always fun to talk with you. But yeah, had to shout the wife up for hooking me up back here.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's the real MVP stuff, That's what Kevin
Yes.
Durant was referring to when he was talking about his mom. It's real.
Yes, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, obviously coming on in a real slow week, not a lot to talk about in the basketball world, not a whole lot of news breaking of any significance at all. Clearly nothing happening. So, I'm sure we'll be struggling for topics. No, it has been insane, man. I mean, 2 double overtime games from Oklahoma City, Wemby with one of the greatest performances of my life. And then, oh yeah, you wake up and one of the people that is like a folk hero in the world of Detroit sports was arrested at 6 a.m. by the FBI. I mean, just personally, wasn't on my 2025 bingo card.
Right. No, it's been a crazy. Who said? I said this yesterday on Locked On NBA Game Night. Who says that the NFL is a better league than the NBA? Who says the NFL season is better than the NBA? It's been 1 week and we already got more drama than the entire NFL season. Like, it's been 1 week.
For real. And to be honest with you, like, I can't even think of many NFL games on the schedule this year that have been that competitive or that intriguing. And like, we already have 2 like borderline, like all-time regular season games in the first week. And unfortunately, I mean, that's all in the back shadow of everything that's happening, with the FBI investigation, with, all of this gambling stuff. This is a basketball podcast, so I do want to primarily talk about basketball, but there are elements that do pertain to on the court. I mean, obviously, there's the big thing about Chauncey was this alleged poker scheme that, the full details are out there, and I mean, it's crazy. It's literally stuff out of a movie. Like A24 is going to have something within 5 years,
Yeah.
about this, like in theaters. It's nuts. But the other piece of it that's, kind of more threatening to the league is the Terry Rozier detention letter came out, and they said in the FBI case that Chauncey was only charged in this gambling case, but if you read the detention letter, it's pretty clearly spelled out, like a former player from 1997 to 2014 that lives in Oregon, that became a coach in 2021, that told someone insider information about the Trailblazers. We could do some math there. They're likely referring to Chauncey, right? So if that is the case, and if Chauncey did indeed do that, like, we're talking about the Pete Rose situation of the NBA. So, like, my first question to you, just kind of, out of curiosity, like, what do you think the NBA, like, how do you think they react? Like, if that is indeed the case, and like, how dangerous do you think this gets in terms of like threatening the integrity of the game?
Yeah, I think the NBA has to deliver harsh punishments every single time something like this comes up. Jonte Porter got banned for life. I think, in my opinion, I feel like anytime you get involved in something like this, if there's any kind of investigation that finds you liable for questioning the integrity of the game, anything with the gambling stuff that we've seen, like you mentioned with Terry Rozier, I am on board with just banning that person for life. You can't have it in sports, professional sports. You already have enough people out there questioning if they're script writers at the beginning of the year. Like, you can't actually have that kind of stuff going on. And I know Chauncey's a legend in Detroit. He's going to remain a legend in Detroit. Like, that doesn't change anything. But like, when stuff like that happens, if there's any truth to it or it actually happened or all that stuff, like, you should be, as far as I'm concerned, you should be banned from being a part of the NBA for life. I don't think there's any room for that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like, if found liable, there isn't a place in sports, there isn't a place, in that reality where, once players find out, that to me, especially, like, if I was a player and I found out my coach was giving someone information like, hey, like, we're not really trying to win this game. We're trying to sit people out. And again, this is all alleged, just as laid out in the document, but nonetheless, like, if I was a player and I found that out, I don't think I could ever look my coach in the eyes the same again. I think that would be
Right.
like the ultimate cardinal sin. I mean, that is literally your coach betting against you when that is the entire antithesis of what a coach should be.
Right. No, yeah, it's not good. It's not a good look for the NBA at all, and it kind of overshadows, like you mentioned, a great week of basketball games. It's been overshadowed by this unfortunate stuff going on. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think immediately where a lot of people went and where my mind went, I'm not sure where your mind went, but I think a lot of us were waiting on what was going to happen with Malik Beasley. Was he going to be one of the people, because they said there were a lot of arrests coming. There were 31 people, I believe, who were arrested, or at the very least were indicted or put on this charge. And the big question is, okay, well, does this mean Malik's cleared? Does this mean that he can play? And in my opinion, Koo, I think this makes the possibility of Malik Beasley return a lot less likely, in the standpoint of the NBA, like, reportedly they cleared Terry Rozier a couple months ago from their investigation, and now they have a lot of pie on their face. They look foolish because of how wrong they were. And I think that the last thing that Adam Silver can afford is that stepping on the rake moment and just doing it again. And I think with Malik Beasley, I think the league is going to just proceed with 100% caution until they know 100% that he's not going to be charged with a thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, like you mentioned, Terry Rozier was cleared by the NBA, but I actually watched Brian Windhorst talk about this morning, and I don't think people really understand this. Just because the NBA clears you of something, if there's a federal investigation going on, like, that doesn't mean much. Like, Brian Windhorst went into it. They can't tap calls. They can't get phone
Right.
records. They can't see text messages. They can't flip people. Like, they don't do that. They only have a limited amount of resources the NBA can actually do. with their investigation, whereas the FBI or the feds, like they're actually like they have resources to get any information that they want, which is why I mentioned in the summer, like Terry Rozier's case was like last year, and it's we're in October of 2025, and we're just now starting to see. I wouldn't even see it wrapped up. We're just now starting to get another update on it.
Yeah.
So I've said this over and over, and if I'm wrong, great, whatever. I can't see Malik Beasley playing anytime soon. Like this is he can be cleared by the NBA, or I don't even think he was cleared. He was just made a he wasn't the target of an investigation. It was
Yeah.
they moved on to. No NBA team is going to, especially with what's happened this week, what's happened with it's taken over sports. This what's happened. This investigate these arrests, especially with what's happened. I cannot see any NBA team even thinking about trying to get involved with a player that could be linked, even if he isn't, but just simply is linked to a gambling investigation, potentially this, them wanting to touch anything to do with him until he is actually cleared from both the FBI and the NBA, and he's not involved in anything at all. As long as you are at all involved in an investigation involving gambling, I don't see how any team takes any kind of shot with him. And Trajan Langdon spoke on, I believe it was 97-1 the other day, and it didn't sound exactly optimistic that he was planning on Malik playing for them soon. I feel like, at least I've taken this stance. I feel like the Pistons, at least Trajan Langdon and them, have taken this stance. Like Malik Beasley's not a Detroit Piston. He's not on the
Yep.
roster. He's not coming. Like, we're moving forward. This is the roster it is. If at one point in the future, he's cleared and now he wants to come back and we have a roster spot open, okay, we'll sign you. Like, something like that happens, sure. But I've taken the stance of Malik Beasley's not a Piston. He's probably not going to be a Piston. I'm not going to, it's kind of like when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, and then the next year in the rest of the season, everyone's like, they're doing this without Tyreek Hill. Like, dude, he's not. It's not like he's coming back. He's not on the team no more. It's like, stop bringing that up. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't think Malik Beasley's coming back, and I don't see how he plays an NBA game this year until he is completely cleared of everything, especially with everything that's happened this week.
Yeah, I think yesterday, if anything, was just the point of emphasis of just how extensive this really is. And the fact that like the FBI was saying, we're just starting our investigation. And to your point, like these investigations that the NBA can do, they bring in these third-party firms, but people don't have to participate in these investigations. Like they can reach out and they can ask people to give information. They don't have to comply. Whereas with the FBI, they can file subpoenas. They can have warrants. They can go a lot deeper and a lot more thorough. And, very clearly we're able to uncover things that are just at an unprecedented level that there's no way that the NBA would have any insight on. So I think if anything, it's like, it's not as much the fact that this is like the NBA, like they messed up, but it's the sense of, I think this is the NBA like recognizing their true limit of their jurisdiction, so to speak. And so I think to your point, like as much as all of us would love, Malik Beasley to be cleared and for this situation to have not happened and for him to still be on the Detroit Pistons because the Pistons are better with his 3-point shooting on the team, we have to operate under the reality that the Pistons are, which is he is not going to be on the team this season or anytime soon, and he might not be in the league based off of any future developments. That's all we can really know.
No, yeah, and even if he does get cleared, like it's not a guarantee he signs with the Pistons. Last we heard is that if he were to get cleared, there's a bunch of other teams also that are interested in him. So it's not as if like, oh, he's cleared, the Pistons got their shooter back. Like, no, it's he's cleared. Malik Beasley might sign with any NBA team. Like, it's not like he's just guaranteed once he's cleared to be a Detroit Piston again. So I've kind of moved on from it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And I think that's a good transition into talking about the roster that is, playing day one that did go out in Chicago. And, despite the final score being, like pretty close and the Pistons really, in the final possessions, like there was real chances for them to go out and win that game. But it was too much of a hole at the beginning with, a lot of the defensive mistakes, the lack of urgency, according to, the coach and some of the other players on the team. And, I think at one point they were out rebounded 33-14 in the first half. They committed 29 personal fouls, which matches like their season high from last year. Jalen Duren got in foul trouble, like, I think, like, literally within, like, not even 3 minutes of the game. Um, what were kind of like your overall, like, not to overreact, but like based on like some of the things you've seen from preseason and thus far, like what have kind of been your takeaways? And do are there any concerns about this team's ability to take a step forward or maintain based on the roster as constructed?
It is one game. It's not overreaction time. It's not the press the red button or anything yet. 'Cause it's 82 game season. One game doesn't
Right.
change everything. And the Pistons, I'm sure we'll get into it. There's going to be growing pains. There are some things that I don't think are just one game things we've seen. It's now a long sample size going back to years of data that we saw prevalent again in this first game. I think the Pistons, the one thing that's the biggest concern to me is this is a team that is built on defense. Their team identity is defense. It's literally the defense is how they unlock everything for them on the offensive end of the floor. They are
Yep.
not going to be a top tier half court team. You hope that they can get to an average half court team, but where they are going to thrive is defensively, and they have to be one of the better defensive teams in the league. And for me, just the thing I'm concerned about, and I'm really interested to see throughout the year is do they start to make some tough decisions, not like roster wise, but rotation wise, for guys that just aren't living up to that. Like we're at a point now. This is Cade's first year on his max extension. He is no longer on his rookie contract. He is actually on. He is now on his extension.
A
We are
super
in a
max extension. So he's
correct.
making big boy money, man.
And we are in the year of Ivy and Durant's extension. So like this is a year where you have to start, being serious. Like this, you have to be real. And I'm hint. I guess people probably know where I'm hinting at. Durant has to improve defensively. Like that's
Yeah.
just like we can't. It can't be another year of this. Like it can't be another year of the on-off splits between him and I almost said Andre Drummond, him and Isaiah Stewart just being stratospheres apart. It can't be the team is 17 points better with Stu again on the floor versus 9 points worse. With like that can't be the case another year. Last year it was terrible. It was a crazy number for how much better they were with Isaiah Stewart on the floor for a lot of the season. And obviously, Duran turned it around. He started to play a little bit better as the season went on, especially once Asar got back later in the season. But it can't. You saw in this game, first game of the year. I mean, I put out a bunch of clips, went through all the defensive possessions. Duran just not being on the closeouts with Nikola Vucevic. JB Bickerstaff talked about this a lot in their Knicks series, saying that he needs their bigs to learn to be on the catch when you are playing against a stretch big, which on the catch means as soon as a stretch big catches the ball, you're already there in their jersey instead of trying to recover and letting them get an easy three up. We saw
Yeah.
Tobias do a great job of that against Cat in the playoffs. And Duran in this game, there's one clip where Duran's literally in the paint just walking around as Vucevic goes and relocates for a three. He got some transition threes as well when he's trailing and Duran sucked into the paint. There was another play where the Pistons come up to trap Trey Jones on the right wing. And when you are coming up to trap, the number one rule you are taught from a very young age, when you are trapping the ball handler, there's two things you can't have happen. You can't have them escape contain by going around the person trying to trap. And two, you can't let them split the double team. If they split, they better turn the ball over. You better foul them. Like they should not split it easily.
Yep.
And Duran just allowed Trey Jones to escape out from, again, they were forcing him to the sideline too. So you should have had a third defender. You should not be allowed to do this. He allowed Trey Jones to get around him. That immediately puts the Pistons in a terrible position because now they're working 4-on-3 with Vooch now in an easy floater position. They just give it to Vooch. Vooch gets an easy floater, all because they broke contain and now the Pistons are stuck playing 4-on-3 within the 3-point line. So it's only game one. I'm sure at least I'm hopeful that it will get better. But if this is a sign of this is going to be just like it was last year, where you're seeing like defensive concerns with the starting lineup, you're seeing defensive concerns with Duran, and Stu is just dramatically outplaying him, and the team's better defensively with him on the floor. My hope is that the team is not unwilling or scared to make a change or be harsh about this, because this is a serious season. They need to be for real. And I understand it's game one. I'm not overreacting to it. I'm hopeful that it'll get better. But what we saw in game one is the same stuff we've seen for the last 2 years that's been the biggest concern with Duren. That has been his biggest concern, and we saw it again coming up in game one.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you would hope that going into year 3 that this is something that they can begin to really, grow out of and not be like a key element in their game, like especially ending to like the big restricted free agency summer. Like you said it, once you start putting these numbers towards these players, like that is the standard that you have to like hold them to. Like to a certain extent, you're making a bet that they're going to reach that level, but at the same time, you have to start like holding those expectations. And to your point, there's just like so many like rotations or switches that just weren't handled properly. Wide open looks for Nikola Vucevic. I mean, how many times did he just catch the ball, could pause and like shoot, within rhythm or as comfortably as human? Like there were points where it just straight up looked like he was shooting warm-ups pregame. And like those things in particular, they just can't happen. And that's how you get caught into early foul trouble, is when you make those mistakes and you're fouling to compensate because you're trying to, make up for that mistake. And no one questions the physical talents, the fundament, like those things that Duren brings is right up there with anyone in the league. But it's those basketball IQ, like those fundamental in moment decision making, specifically on the defensive end, where if he wants to be like up there with the best centers in the league or get paid like to the level of like a Bam Adebayo, like those are the things that you just have to be dialed in on. And the center, like especially, the way that, like the Pistons like to play defense. I mean, just in general, like a lot of the times, like the rim protector holds a lot of the keys on the defensive end. They play a very important role. And when you can't have someone like that you can rely on like consistently, like when you have to play like 24 minutes each between your starter and your backup big, as great as Isaiah Stewart is, like they just they need more out of Jalen Duren and specifically out of their highly athletic, high ceiling big.
No, yeah, look, I've been very vocal about my how much of a fan I am of Duren's offensive skill set. He
Yep.
has talent on the offensive end of the floor. He has this playmaking ability. He has nice footwork around the paint. He obviously is a great pick and roll partner for Cade. He has this talent offensively on dribble drives, the capability to get defensive rebound, maybe go and create. Like he can do some things offensively that make him unique. He's very talented. But in 2025, and really at any point in NBA history, I feel like, but even more so in 2025, your big man has to be your backbone of your defense. Like Asar can be great defensively, and there's been times where it feels like Asar has warped their defense just by himself. But at the end of the day, you are not going to be a legit competitor or a legit contender if your center is just targetable on defense, or it's just unless you are Nikola Jokic, where you are maybe the greatest offensive talent we've ever seen. Like unless you are that, you have to be passable defensively. You have to be the backbone of the defense, and you have to be tuned in. You have to be focused and not a liability on that end of the floor. So really, that's my biggest concern um, coming from game one, because everything else you can chalk it up to it's just one game.
Yeah.
They'll get better as the season goes on. Let's see how this looks. Let's wait 20 games. Let's see, that kind of thing. We can talk about it, but that kind of thing, you can chalk it up a lot of it to hopefully it gets better. We'll see how the season progresses just early in the season. What we saw from Duren is the same thing we saw in year two. It's the same thing we saw in year three. And going into an extension, after hearing that he wants $30 million a year, according to a report, and the Pistons not coming to an agreement on extension, going to year four now, and the same thing popping up on the film in the first game is just that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's like when it's fundamental, like when it's like habits that have been repeated over time that continue to pop back up. Like at a certain point, is that a deficiency or is that just who you are?
Right.
And I remember there's like the coach speak where it's like, oh well, you messed up now because you showed me what you're capable of. It's like last year, like I remember in like a press conference, he admitted that he came out soft at the beginning of the year, and like some of the level of improvement that we saw at the end of the year, like we've seen like what Jalen Duren can look like when he's fully dialed in, when he is on top of those details. And I think to your point, like with increased salary, like comes increased expectations, comes increased responsibility. And part of that is you have to be in position and you have to be, where your guys need you to be, because that's how those easy opportunities pop up like they did against Chicago. And don't get me wrong, like, yeah, Chicago's a good offensive team, but like they're not special offensively by any
That
stretch of
might
the
be
imagination.
that might be Vooch's best game of the season, game 1.
Oh, for
That game
sure.
1 might be his best game he'll have all year.
For sure. Like Josh Giddey's a good player, but like, I mean, they're playing like as of recording, like they're going to Houston tonight. They're going to be facing a lot better scores than what they've seen in against Chicago. So that's just really why you got to make sure that's dialed in and dialed up if this team really wants to be, who they are. And like again, we know how good Cade and Duran are in the pick and roll. Like you said, the offensive potential's there. It's game 1 of 82, so you hope that you can see improvement and that, that Duran recognizes those things himself. I'm sure the coaches are saying the same things to him. But like when you talk about why this season's going to be important and those difficult decisions that have to be made, like this is really like the real opportunity for Trajan to like truly sit back and evaluate and truly see what these guys look like under like real pressure. Because last year, this time, obviously they had to like put together a big staff. I think, quite frankly, going in the season, I don't think anyone had any expectations for the Pistons last year. Whereas this year, it's like, well, we just won playoff games. Like we can advance in the playoffs. Like we have a great young player. Like there's legitimate expectations for this team to produce. And like Trajan talked about at media day, like the ability to see these guys in the summer and evaluate, how they're going through like an off season and a full season. Like I think like truly by February, I think we're going to start seeing, like Trajan, like start to make some decisions about, okay, who are these fundamental pieces here? And I think we're pretty confident about guys like Cade Cunningham, like Asar Thompson. Like I'm pretty sure Isaiah Stewart's not going anywhere for a good while if Detroit has something to say about it. But when it comes to like, Jalen Duran, Jaden Ivey, like this is kind of the year where they really have their future in the palm of your hands, especially with the restricted free agency next year. Like you can determine what your market's going to be.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I just hope that Duran improves on the defensive end. I hope that after game 1, that it is just one game and he shows development. I'm just like I said, the most concerning thing was that we saw the same habits popping back up on film. So hopefully, in a game against the Houston Rockets, we're recording this before the game. Hopefully, he looks a lot better in this game, specifically on the defensive end of the floor.
Yeah, for sure. I think like one of the big focuses as well is just, like we talked to Malik Beasley earlier, like like the Malik Beasley supplement, like who's going to replace that. And obviously I know like Duncan Robinson, he was a brunt of a lot of jokes on Pistons Twitter. And I feel like he's always just a brunt of the joke wherever he is, whenever he has a bad night. But nonetheless, with Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, the one, and again, it's just one game. I don't want to overreact, but it's just curious with with how like some of the rotations and like how guys are being used specifically with with Karras. I know he was brought in to be like to kind of be one of the primary ball handlers and to kind of run the offense in the second unit. But it seemed like when I thought he would maybe be staggered a little bit more with a Cade, like he seemed like he played a lot of his minutes alongside Cade. And in part, I think some of it is they clearly want Asar handling the ball quite a bit, and he seemed to do pretty well in that role for the most part. And I think, I'll be interested to see how that develops. But what were kind of like your impressions of like how those guys were used like game 1 and like just like going forward, like what do you think are going to kind of be like some of the growing pains you think of implementing these guys into the roster?
Yeah, I think Duncan, obviously, he's gonna have to shoot better, and I think he will shoot better. He's been a shooter his entire career. It's not like all of a sudden he's forgotten how to shoot. It's one game. Like
Yeah.
he can be the butt of the joke. Like I see it as well. But he's gonna shoot better than this. He's gonna make 4 or 5 threes in a game. Like it's gonna like he's a really good shooter. It's gonna happen. He just had a bad
Consummate
opening
pro.
night. Yeah, bad opening night. Hopefully he turns it around against Houston tonight. But I'm not really like concerned about what we saw from Duncan, because a lot of what we saw from Duncan is kind of like what's expected. Like he'll hit more threes. He's not very good defensively. You know, once he hits threes, you'll live with the defense a little more. Like it's like stuff we already know.
Yep.
So I'm not really concerned at all with that aspect. Um, when it comes to Karras and how they utilize him, I think you're right. They did show that they clearly want to stagger. I mean, they've been staggering Asar and Cade throughout the preseason and in the first game. They brought Asar, I believe, with 5 minutes left, then brought him back in with the 2 minute mark to come in for Cade, and then Cade came in for him early. And like they've been staggering those two guys with the clear intent that they want Asar Thompson to take up a lot of these ball handling responsibilities and get them into the offense within the half court. And I thought he had a fine game in game one. He had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists to just 1 turnover. I thought he did a fine job handling the pressure and getting them into sets. I think he could be more aggressive driving and more aggressive trying to create offense, but didn't turn the ball over, handled the ball pressure really well. Didn't, I thought he played a fine game in those in that role. With Karras, I think if they do continue to play Karras with Cade a bit, I think the numbers you can look at is how well they played with Cade and Schroeder last year on the floor together this past year. They were really good in those minutes. So I'd assume that they looked at that and was like, okay, we want another ball handler. We want another secondary creator with Cade. We had one with Dennis. It worked really well. Now we got Karras, who probably is a little bit better of a scorer himself and a little bit bigger. Um, let's see if he can create the same kind of juice that we had with Schroeder and Cade this past year. Now, I thought Karras was a little bit up and down in this game. Like he had some good moments, and then he would follow it up with some questionable shots, a bad turnover here. But I thought you saw a little bit of a roller coaster, and he is dealing with, I forget what the injury is, but he was day to day going into the game. He's been probable both times, so I forget what it was. But um, I think I'll be interested to see how they utilize Karras, if he's strictly going to be used as a guy next to Cade, or if it's something that they're just doing while Ivy is out. Are they, is that what it is? Like, I'll be interested to see how they're utilizing him. But I feel like with both guys, you've kind of saw what at least I was expecting. Duncan, he'll hit more threes.
Yeah.
With Harris, you're going to get some of that on ball creation, some of those driving kicks, his ability to get to the rim and maybe score for himself. I mean, you'll probably get some bad shots here and there because he believes himself a lot. He's going to take some questionable shots because he thinks he can hit them. So, like, I saw really what I expected from both of those guys in this first game.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said. I think with Karras, I think there's an element too of a guy coming into a team, both of these guys really, and like wanting to fit in to the team and not really like just like playing instinctively and playing your game for a lack of better terms. And so, I mean, we saw that even with like Tobias Harris coming into the roster last year. I remember there was a lot of concern about, about his level of play at the beginning. And then obviously we saw as the season went on, like really that continued to elevate to another level. So I'm sure, especially like you said with like Duncan, I don't even think he had like some of the cleanest looks, like when it comes to like some of the threes that he had. So I imagine that as games go on, he's only going to get, only going to get better. He's just, he's been one of the like more consistent high level 3-point shooters we've had in the league. The problem is obviously it's just when you're replacing one of the greatest 3-point shooters in the history of the league from the standpoint of what he outputted last year. That's just when people hold it to that expectation, that is just a really dang hard bar to reach. I mean, literally only Anthony Edwards made more threes last
Mm-hmm.
year than Malik Beasley. Like it's historic proportion of a season.
Yeah, and I think another thing with the Pistons offense with Karras and Duncan that will help, I think specifically Duncan out even more. It felt at times a lot, especially in the first half. The first half, the Pistons were just flat out terrible. Like it was
Yeah.
bad in the first half, and really at spots throughout the game, but more so in the first half. It felt like they weren't even really getting into their half court offense early enough. They were getting to offense late in the shot clock. They were resulting to a lot of just straight up isolations at times. It felt like they weren't, comfortable within the half court. And that for a guy like Duncan who needs to, feed off of structure and DHOs and, knowing where to go, where to be at, that kind of thing, it's going to hurt someone like him even more. And I thought as the game went on in the second half, especially like they started to, look better. I expect them to look better tonight, but for guys like Duncan, he's going to need that structure. They're going to need to get early into the offense, transition, run off of misses, run off of steals. Obviously, all of that he'll get transition threes, but within the half court, you actually have to run your sets and get into your offense early enough. And he'll feast off of that. That's when he'll be at his best. He's not going to do great when there's not much going on and it kind of fizzles. And now there's 9 seconds on the shot clock and someone has to isolate. Like that's not Duncan's not going to be much of a help with that. So I think Duncan was also a little bit of um a byproduct of how the Pistons were incapable of really getting into their offense at times in the first half.
Yeah, no question. No question. And there it wasn't all negatives. Like it ended up being a 4-point game. The Pistons did come out and, in the second half and play a lot better than they did in the first half. And I think if you're looking for like signs of, like and they were already, like one of these players is already someone I think was on our radar to really like hone in on and watch this season was Ron Holland. And I think we've all seen, like the physical talent, the gifts, like just how hard the guy plays, how hard he works, but just the intensity he brings. He was already a really good finisher last year at the rim. There were some layups he took that they felt like heat check layups for a lack of better terms. It was like, I don't know if that's the layup I would have taken like over 2 or 3 guys, but somehow, some way it felt like just about every one of them went in. And, like the jump shot, obviously, that's still a work in progress, but the form very clearly looks improved and, obviously looks really good. And from Isaiah Stewart, I think that's probably the best overall game he's played as a pro. If not, it's up at the very top of the list.
No, I thought Stu was the best player for the Pistons in this game. I thought he was incredible on both
Yep.
ends of the floor. He helped space the floor. He is part of the reason why the Asar Thompson Ron Holland duo looked so good in this first game because he was able to space the floor. He was able to hit 2 threes and force people to guard him. What he was able to do defensively to help them get out in transition, especially in that fourth quarter. He had 4 blocks in this game, incredible rim protection reps that allowed the Pistons to run. I thought Stu was absolutely fantastic. He was active on the glass. I thought he was really physical inside as well. He was active on the offensive glass as well. I thought Stu was the best player on the team in this first game. He was just straight up exceptional. And if I would have played him even more, and I definitely would have closed with him. But yeah, I thought he was the best player on the floor for the Detroit Pistons, and that's not something to take lightly. He was fantastic in that first game. And then Ron, like you mentioned, he has some of the best touch around the rim, maybe the best touch around the rim on the team.
Yeah.
He had some crazy finishes at the rim, a nice poster dunk along the left side, left baseline as well. He's obviously very much confident in his shot. He shot 1 of 4 from three, but I like the fact that he's taking them. That right corner three that he hit off an Isaiah Stewart block, Asar hit it ahead to him. And he hits it. Him and Asar went crazy on the sideline after he hit it. Like him being able to hit that shot will do huge things for the kind of lineups that the Pistons can put together. And obviously will allow them to play the Asar Ron lineup even more together. The more he's able to hit threes. But I thought Ron played fantastic role. Great offensive finishing. His defense in the third quarter really is what kept the Pistons alive in this game. He came through in the third and was being a physical with Josh Giddey. He was getting steals, forcing stops, getting out in transition. He was the spark that was keeping them in the game in that third quarter. He was fantastic. And then I do have to shout this out. He had a really good playmaking rep in the pick and roll with Isaiah Stewart in the first half. A right hand bounce pass in the pick and roll, something he just wouldn't have even seen or tried to pass in his first year. To see him
Yep.
go to that, it's not like he was doing it every play, but the fact that he was able to see that and make that play in this game shows improvement. I really like what we saw from Ron. I thought those two guys were the best players in this game. I thought the 3 bright spots. I had three. I wrote about this. There was 3 bright spots in this game, and it was Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, and Asar. I thought those guys were the only ones that were positive and plus minus in this game. They won their minutes. They were, and it's not a coincidence. Those are the guys that play defense. So that
Yeah.
hints at why they were so good in their minutes. But I thought Ron and Stu were absolutely fantastic in this game. And if they continue to play like that, they should continue to get more minutes. I believe Stu played 25 minutes. Ron was able to play 27. If Ron continues to play that well, he should continue to play 27 plus minutes, get closer to 30 as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say is and obviously with some of the injury with like the Jaden Ivey injury, it throws some of the like some of like what we knew about the rotation up in the air. If Ron continues to like keep playing well, and there's still kind of a question of what they'll get at shooting guard, like is there a question at some point if he can be in the starting lineup at a certain stretch for a period this season?
The I think there's a chance that Ron ends up breaking into the starting lineup. The concern I have is that I don't think you can play Ron, Asar, and Duran together. Like the minutes
Yeah.
in the first game were not very good. Now it's just a 1 game sample size. It's not a large sample size at all to really try and have a huge takeaway with. But like the eye test and the idea behind it would back up that maybe it wouldn't be the greatest line because you have 3 guys out there that aren't spacing the floor really. I
Right.
know Ron's taking them, but defenses aren't going to like run out to him. So I think there's a good argument you could probably make after the 20 game mark. I mean, maybe it happens earlier, but I usually evaluate the season in 20s.
Yep.
There's probably a good argument that will be had after the 20 game mark that Ron's one of their 5 best players and he should start. But I feel like in order to start Ron with Asar and Cade, you would then have to start Stu because he provides spacing, and you would then have to like you. I feel like that's more of a lineup that you just close with. I feel like
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to start Ron because of that. I don't think there's any consideration the team will ever have to sitting Jalen Duren. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying I don't think there's any consideration they'd give to that. So I feel like it's more so a lineup you'll see throughout the game and a lineup they'll close with rather than in the starting lineup. But hey, if Ron all of a sudden starts shooting 36% from three, maybe they just start him and say, screw it, we can do it.
Yeah, and honestly, there's merit to the fact of bringing him off of the bench, kind of in those dog minutes of the game where it's like middle or end of second quarter or middle or end of the third quarter where guys are starting to get exhausted and the attrition of the game just kind of starts to wear in and Ron's intensity doesn't slow down. If anything, it only goes up as the game goes on. To me, I think the most intriguing experiment and the thing that I'm kind of looking forward to the most of really watching unfold is the Ron and Asar duo on the court together and how well can those two really thrive together, because there is very clearly the makings of what could be a very dynamic duo of wings, especially from the athleticism, from the length, from the defensive ability. They pass the eye test in a lot of areas, but to your point, it limits how much you can really put them on the court together in certain lineups when you're not able to space the floor. And for me, it's with Asar, the fact that he's already proven to be so good that you just keep him on the court and don't worry about the shooting. That says a lot. Ron clearly looks a lot closer to being a consistent 3-point shooter. And so to me, if Ron can develop that shot this season to be at a relatively consistent level, I think that duo has a very legitimate chance to be a very big element of what this Pistons core is for a long time.
No, yeah. And look, I think the Pistons' future, I've said this multiple times, I believe their future is Asar and Ron on the wings, but I think we just need to let it play out, continue to get a larger sample size, and if it continues to play really well and they continue to look really good, just let it be a lineup you'll see throughout the game and close with. I think it'd be in a season. I feel like it'd be a little tough to try to start both of them right now, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that for sure. And at the very least, it makes a lot of sense to have Duncan in there for right now, just a stable veteran that that knows how to play the game and provides that shooting and that spacing that team really badly needs. I do really quickly before we wrap up. I do want to talk the rest of the league, just because I can't get that Wemby performance out of my head, man. I mean, just that. I don't think there's more times I've heard audible gasps in an arena. Not even boos, not even a team being angry at fans being angry at their team, but just more of a helplessness of oh, this is what we have to face for years on end now. I mean, this is literally stuff I would create in a video game when I was a kid.
Look, I don't know if you play 2K26, but Wemby has done what Curry did to 2K16. He has broken the game. We got 7-4s out here doing exactly what he did. So
yeah,
he's already, his impact's already being felt.
Yep. I remember specifically, when he was coming into the league. I remember Ronnie 2K was we're terrified about him coming, he's going to break our game. And it's yeah,
it's happening right now. Trust me. I've played 400. Look, listen. People,
400 hours?
No, not hours. Not
hours.
I
was gonna say, I was like, go.
I've played 400 games of Rec.
Okay. Yep.
I am a gamer. I'm telling you guys
right now. Same here.
If you have not played it, the 7-4s simply because of Wemby have taken over the game simply because of Wemby. They can't get contested. They're out here doing step backs like he's doing. He's breaking the game in real life and on actual video games.
Yeah, it's on one hand, it's what are you going to do? Tell players that they can't play that in a video game when it's well, I see it in real life. It's happening right in front of my eyes. It's simulation. It's
No,
like even then I'm just like, was this made in a lab? Like how does this? I mean, good lord, to be that tall with that dynamic of guard skills. I mean, it's like I put out a tweet. It's like he has moments where he looks like he can have the shot making of a Durant,
yes,
like the rim protecting of like a Dikembe Mutombo. Like this summer, like I know it's like he joked about like going and getting like people joked about going and getting like the Infinity Stones, but dude literally looks like Thanos in full
yes.
form right now.
I mean, he is so clearly the best defensive player in the league by like a mile. Like he is just like not even if the NBA wants to be serious and not get fatigue, he should win the defensive player of the year award the next 8 years. Like he should just win it every year for the next 8 seasons. And then combined with that, like what he was that play he had on Derek Lively when he blocked a hook shot without really jumping into the ground, not away, just into the ground, picks it up, then dribbles full court, hits him with a tween cross, then into a double step back three and one. That was something I don't know if I've ever like. I was in I rewatched it like 10 times. I'm like, bro, there's no way I just saw this. There's no way this is real. Like he's this could be the year he takes over. This could be the year he becomes the best player in the league. Like like he's crazy.
I remember I was writing something as well after the game ended for the Pistons, and I was just typing away, and as that play happened, I just stopped for 5 minutes with my jaw just audibly dropped and just like an utter disbelief. It felt for the first time like we saw like I'm not sure if you remember like the showcase game that he played in when he
Yes.
was part of the Paris team against Scoot. Like that was like I just remember one of those like that was the first time just the shock and awe of Wemby was introduced to me. And like that's the first time I've felt that truly like in an NBA setting. Like it looked truly like the NBA version of what we saw in that game, of like how dominant he was. And I remember people were like, oh, he could be the best player in the NBA by year 3. It's like, well, that feels a little extreme. It's like, no, we're here. Like
Yeah.
he very like I'm like after that game, I feel like instantly you have to go, well, he's at least top 5 if he's
Yeah.
playing like that.
No, I mean, look, the question is if you are miles away the best defender in the league, how good do you have to be offensively to then be the best player in the league? And if he's that much better than everyone else defensively and he's dropping 40 while, step back threes and crossing up Anthony Davis, by the way, like is Anthony Davis like not like the number 1 overall pick of anyone you'd pick to like if you had to pick anybody who would I want to stop Wemby? Like is Anthony Davis not like a top 3 pick there? Like and he's
He
just
made Anthony
maybe a,
Davis look like a child. Like
yeah.
he legitimately like Anthony Davis looked like a small forward next to him. I had to
Yeah,
remind myself Anthony Davis was one of the tallest players in the league for years.
yeah, he's Wemby's ridiculous, man. If he's that good all year, this is the year he's going to take over.
I mean, and listen, I get Pistons fans. Like, I understand the bitterness of, oh, we should have won that lottery, whatever. I mean, when you get a Thompson twin who's another freak in itself, I don't think that's a bad consolation prize. But nonetheless, at a certain point, like to me, like as I grew up like a fan of like the Pistons, and as much as like that's the team I want to see do well, I have a love of the game more, and like to be able to like be alive and like to like that's like
Yes.
one of those players that you legitimately will tell stories of
Mm-hmm.
like to your children and to like people about like that is like one of those moments that I will remember where I was when I was watching that game. And the fact that we got that on the first night of the season, essentially, I mean, it's just I'm stoked to continue to keep tuning in. And it's just if there's one thing with Wimby, I mean, it's like not to sound like old man yells at cloud here, but it's like I think if he continues to like maintain the shooting splits he's had since this preseason, where it's been a lot more in the interior and
Mm-hmm.
some in the 3. Don't get me wrong, his 3-point shooting when he can make it at a high level, absolutely go ahead, take him, let him fly. When it's 60% of his offense, I'm like, dude, I get he doesn't want to be known as like just for his height. I know he wants to showcase his skill. But at a certain point, when you can make something at what will probably be the highest efficiency we'll ever see in the league, you take the gimme
Right.
and make them try and go get the hard one on the other end. And so,
Right.
like, to me, that's the thing that takes him to truly dominance level is when he like it's funny because I feel like it's like for him, it's like embracing the boring, which is like what their coach said in that huddle in that clip that's been going viral, which by the way, seems like San Antonio's got themselves another really good coach.
Yeah.
But you know, like if he embraces the mundane of that of those easy dunks or those layups of like inside the paint, we are legitimately talking about what could be one of the most dominant campaigns from a player ever, and he's only in year 3.
Yeah, he's going to be crazy. I'm interested to see if he continues to play like that. Does San Antonio make a move to try to really compete? But
Yeah,
I'm gonna enjoy watching Wemby for sure.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, I'm it's great that we get to see Houston right away, right after you know, like that like thrilling game they had in Oklahoma City. I mean, it felt like Alperen Şengün jumped to a whole nother level based off of Eurobasket preseason. What I saw in that game in Oklahoma City. I mean, I mean, we're both big Thompson twin fans, and so like watching Amen and what he can do, you know, especially now more in like a prominent, you know, like point guard role. The big concern is, you know, like, are they going to get anything out of Reed Shepherd? Again, only one game, but in that one game against Oklahoma City, like it was very clear he was being targeted on the
Mhm.
defensive side of the ball, just possession after possession after possession. And I just, as much as people clown on or you know, like question Fred VanVleet's like ability as a player at this stage of the game, yeah, like he was so important to what this team was trying to do this year.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Houston plays. I want to see if Houston's still going to do the big lineup against Detroit, and if they do this huge lineup of if everyone doesn't know what it is, it's Amen, KD, Jabari, Sengun, and Steven Adams. One of the most maybe unorthodox lineups you'll see in the NBA this year.
Oh
If
yeah.
they do start again with that lineup, if that's just their starting lineup for the year, I'm interested to see does JB change his lineup to try to suit that, or does he just say we'll beat yours by playing ours? So I want to see if he. I mean, I feel like the clear potential adjustment he might make is start Stu next to Duran, but
Yep.
I wonder if that makes the rotation a bit trickier for him. Um, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm definitely that's probably the number one thing I'm most intrigued by the lineups that he employs against that lineup that Houston does.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be fascinating. But before I let you go, is there any other teams, any other players that you're excited to watch this season, or anything that you're kind of following along that we didn't really get to talk about very much?
There's a few teams I'm watching, so I try to watch as many games as I can so I can have a good knowledge of the league.
Yeah.
Um, first team I'm really watching for is Portland, because I'm a big Shane Sharp guy. Bad opening game for him. That's not very good. 5 of 20 from the field. Not the greatest start to the season, but he just got an
Somehow
extension.
the wake up after the game might have been worse than the game.
Yes, yes. I can only imagine what they're going through over there. But
Yeah.
I like Portland because of Shaden, and I also am a big fan of Yang Hansen. So I want to see how good he actually is going to be. So that's another team I'll be paying attention to. Charlotte continues to be a team I just hope does well because I like LaMelo, and he can't. There's just no way he can keep losing like this. So
Yeah.
I'll be watching them. Obviously, San Antonio. I obviously watch the Houston Rockets because of Amen. Because you guys, I think everyone knows I'm a big fan of the Thompson twins. So I'd say those are the few teams I'm most focused on outside of the Pistons. Um, a lot of my friends are Bulls fans, so I obviously keep up with them a little bit. A lot of my friends are from Chicago, so they were definitely talking a little bit after the Pistons lost their opening game. But yeah, that's really who I'm paying attention to. I think the first 2 nights of the NBA season have been I think it's 3 nights actually. First 3 nights have been back to back to back bangers. So
It's
there's
been
probably
awesome.
15 plus teams you could go find and watch good basketball. So those are the ones I'm focused on, but I'll watch a lot of them, and I'm sure we'll get good games because so far man, that like we haven't even mentioned what Steph and Denver did. Like yesterday, that game was crazy too. It's been some great basketball to start the season.
I mean, Shea dropped 55 last night.
Yes,
It didn't
yes,
even come up. Yeah, this just happens now on a nightly basis. This is
good
just the league
basketball,
we
man.
have. Yeah,
Great
for sure.
basketball.
And I think, by the way, like NBC, I don't think you could have asked for like a
Oh,
better
cinema,
premiere in a debut. Like they already are lapping the rest of the league, and it's like
pure cinema.
what a concept, right? To make the people in the studio secondary to the product on the court. How so weird. And to actually treat it like it's a big deal. What?
Or
Wild.
how about having people who actually like the players that are on the court and actually like basketball talking about the game, not to spend the whole half or the entire broadcast on about why the game isn't good anymore. And like maybe who would have thought?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like maybe having one of the highest paid people in media who talks about basketball, who openly admits that they don't care about basketball, might not be a good thing.
Right.
Wild stuff. Yeah, no question. But speaking of Shaq, before I saw this was like the funniest thing that came out of the whole media versus coaches thing for me, because everyone was like, "Oh, Pistons media's got to do it," and someone posted the meme of Sean Halfcourt and Khahil versus Jarrett Jack. It's Kobe throwing the lob. I'm like, I don't know if I'm Shaq or Kobe in this one, but I don't know how to break the news that my knees have never been for dunking.
Listen, listen. I'm a hooper now, but I'm not. I've never dunked in my life. I'm sad to break this to myself. I don't think I ever will. So like, I don't know. I don't think that I'll be able to be Shaq on that end. But if they did a Pistons media versus coaches, I'd love to say I'd be able to ball out. But the Pistons staff is full of former NBA players, so I just don't think we would even. I don't know. If they leave me open for three, I'm making it. But I would assume that they're just going to press everyone full court and just make.
Oh,
it
no
impossible.
question. They're gonna. It's like, I mean, that's their opportunity to bring it to us. You know,
you got Luke Walton, you got Fred Vincent, you got Jarrett Jack. Like these are all like legit. We're not talking about just coaches that are also good at basketball kind of thing. We're talking about professional athletes retired 3 years ago. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if you just saw us like if you just put like the media and the coaches right next to each other, like you could guess what the final score is going to be.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like all the coaches like, yeah, these are top tier athletes who were recruited and some of these guys were McDonald's All-Americans. Meanwhile, like for a lot of us, it's like, well, some of us like we went to McDonald's before the game. Like we're not quite built the same. So a little bit different contrast.
Yeah, I'll say this: if it happened, I'd definitely be down for it, and I will. I think I'll say this: I feel like I have the best chance to get a bucket out of the Pistons media crew. That's what I'll say. I feel like I have the best chance, but
Hey,
that may be also a minimal chance. So
I am self-aware. In this game, I would just be trying to fill in the gaps, man. I'm setting screens, I'm getting rebounds, I'm getting water. My teammates need it. Like I know for a fact this will not be my domain to shine, but I mean, nonetheless, it'd be really fun. But no, seriously, man, Koo, thanks so much for taking the time to be here. Obviously, it's been just a lot of fun to get to know you over the years, and especially as we get to go to media, meet in person more, year by year. I really enjoy, collaborating, with everyone in the space. But you do a really great job of breaking down the X's and O's and flowing into like why that's significant or what people should look out for. So seriously, I mean, I know a lot of people are tuning in this are already probably tuning into Locked On Pistons, but if you're not, be sure you're subscribed over there, and also follow Koo on Twitter as well, because he's doing a lot of good stuff. But seriously, man, thanks for making the time and coming, man.
Absolutely, man. Always fun to talk. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And thank you so much to those who tuned in and joined us for the pod. Be sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything that we have coming down the pipe. But that's going to do it for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court.